All right. Good evening. It's a pleasure to have you once again today. It's the fifth day of our Microsoft Excel live sessions, and today we're going to be looking at some of the more advanced concepts in Microsoft Excel. We're going to be starting with data validation, which we did not get a chance to look at the last time. And then we'll look at data analysis tools and what if analysis. And if time permits, we'll look at protection. How do you protect parts of your workbook or parts of your worksheets in Microsoft Excel? As always, feel free to stop me if there's something you don't find clear enough. I'll be happy to go back and then talk about it. So yeah, moving on to the data sheets, I'm going to share the link with you now so that you can also follow along. And it's going to be provided in the video as well for those who are going to be looking at it much later. All right, so today we are going to be starting with data validation in Microsoft Excel. So what is data validation? I don't know if anybody has an idea. Maybe they want to, share. What's data validation? So data validation is basically a way to restrict data in a particular table or in a particular spreadsheet. So oftentimes when you're working with real live data in maybe Excel, or maybe you're someone that collects a lot of data, when people are entering data, it's often one of the biggest causes of data error. So in order to prevent that kind of scenarios, when you don't want people to enter wrong data, you need to put some sort of restriction on your data table. So in that way, people will not be able to enter the wrong thing on your data. And I have a very small example here just to illustrate those concepts. So let's say, for instance, so you see these 4 columns in this table on this table are not filled. And that's because I want to use them to demonstrate the idea of data validation. So let's say, for instance, I have a status column. This is a project management table, for instance. And then I have a column here that says status. And then I only want people to be able to enter one of 4 things on this particular table. One way I can do that is using the data validation function in the Excel, data validation command. So to get to data validation, you go to data, and then you see there's data validation here, right? And then you can see it brings up a dialog box, validation criteria, input message, error alert. So they basically mean exactly that. So now, what I want to do first and foremost is I want to select the part that I want to put the validation. So for this table, for instance, I'm going to select up until this entire section of my table. So I'm going to click on data validation, and then I'll allow. If you look here, you see allow. At the moment, it's any value, which is the default. So I can decide to put in any value. But let's say I want to restrict what people can enter. Now I can choose any of these options. So you see the first, what I want to choose here is a list, right? And then you see, the moment I click on list, there's a source box that comes up. Now, my box is I want people to be able to choose only one of these 4 options. So completed, in progress, stopped, and paused. So these are the only 4 options I want people to be able to select. And then you see there's an option here to click in cell drop down. So basically this will put a drop down on this range. So if I click on OK, you will see that there's a drop down beside each of these columns. So now anybody that wants to fill in this form cannot fill in anything. Let's just say I want to put goal. You can see it does not allow. This value does not match the data validation restriction defined for this cell. So it will only allow people to enter one of these 4 values. So that's how you put in data validation using a list. Now, let's say, for instance, for the number of teams column, I only want people to be able to enter the numbers 1 to 7. So you cannot put any number outside the range 1 to 7. The same thing, data validation. Now, here, I have the whole number. Then you can see between. So what I want is, there are other options, of course. So you can see less than or equal to, between, not between, equal to. So minimum I want them to be able to put is 1, and the maximum I want them to put is 7. So if I click on OK, it doesn't appear like there's anything here, right? Now, let's say I try to put something else. You see, that error comes out. Now, let's say I put in 10. It's also not going to allow that. Now, let's say for the purpose of someone that is not a part of my team, I can put what is it called? I can put like a notification that, okay, so error. I can put a notification for them such that I can say something like, you can only enter between 1 and 7 in this cell. So this can provide some context. No, this is for error, right? This is for error alerts. So error message. Information is basically just when the cell is selected. So I can say select between 1 and 7. That's like just to inform people. So now if I put a 3, you can see it allows it. If I put an 8 or a 9, so you can see I can only enter between 1 and 7 in this cell. And then you can see continue. It allows it because let's go back to our validation rules. Let's go back to our data validation rules. This is a warning because we put it as a warning. That's why it allows it. So stop. That's what I want it to be. I don't want it to be a warning. Now, there are times that you might want to put warnings so that even when people enter it, they know, but then you still want to allow those kind of things. So now you can see when I click on the cell, select between 1 and 7. So if I put a 9 here now, it's not going to allow me to enter as before. So you can see it doesn't allow it. So now I can only have between 1 and 7. And that's basically the same way you do for the other column. So data validation is as simple as that, and it's a very, very useful it's a very useful tool when you work with data every day and every now and then. Any questions? Is this clear? Do we have anyone that's not clear on data validation, how it works?
I have a question. Sorry.
All right.
My computer had frozen when you're explaining the status bar. Can you please come again on that?
On what?
The status, the column that has status.
So that the message or what?
Can you come again on that? Like repeat the explanation, how you go by
For the error,
when you're
for the input message.
all of that. Sorry?
Is it like for the messages that I put in here?
Yes. No, here on the on status.
On status, okay. So I should go over it again.
Yes, please.
All right. So I'm going to first of all delete this. Clear validation. Let's remove the validation first and foremost, and then I'll go over it again. Clear all. I'm going to clear all. So I'm going to clear all. So like I mentioned, data validation is a way for restricting what people can enter in a particular cell or in a cell range. This is a project management tool. Of course, it's just imaginary. Now, let's say in a real project, I want my team members to be able to update the status of each of their tasks, but I don't want them to just input anything. If I leave it open, someone will enter something like complete, someone will enter complete. Maybe they want to put complete, they will do something like this. It will not be correct. And if I want to analyze this kind of data, it's going to be a nightmare because the data is not consistent. So for consistency sake, sometimes you want to restrict what people can input in your data cells. So now where data validation comes in. So I was saying for this now, for instance, let's say we have 4 possible statuses on a task. It's possible that a task can be either completed, in progress, it can be paused, or it could have been stopped. Maybe for some reason, maybe budget, they stopped the project, right? So if I want that kind of restriction, I need to put a validation in place, which forces whoever is filling that cell to only a restricted number of options. And in Microsoft Excel, you just need to go to the data tab, come to the data tools group, and then click on data validation. Now, under settings, there are 3 tabs here. There is settings, there is input message, there is error alert. By default, it allows any value, but you can change that. So you can see, you can use a whole number, you can use a decimal, you can use a list, you can use a date, a time, text length, and so on. But for something like when you have a restricted number of inputs, you use a list, right? Now, I already created what I want to be in my list down here, drop down list. So I need to come here and then select this my option, this range as the possible options for this particular column. For input message, maybe I don't want to put any message, so let me unclick this. But for error, let me put an error, and then you can put a style. So you can either show a warning, show an information, or show a stop. For stop will not allow that input to go at all. It will not allow that input to go. When you put a warning, it's going to warn the person, but it's still going to allow them enter. When you put information, it's still going to allow them enter. There are times that you might want to put those kind of things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an error, and then I'm saying, please select an option from the drop down. So this is what I want, but I want it to be a stop sign so that if someone puts something that is wrong, it does not allow it. So let's say now I want to put, I make a mistake here. Maybe I didn't spell my complete correctly, and I press enter. Now you can see, please select an option from the drop down, and then it will tell me to for this one, I want to put stop. So that it's only what I want that is able to go into this column. Is that clear now, Isabel?
Yes, it's clear. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you very much. Yeah. So we're done with data validation. Next week or before next week, I'm going to share some maybe one or two exercises that we can use to practice some of the things we've been talking about from the first week. So now I want us to quickly look at custom formatting rules, right? So under condition formatting, you can have manage rules, and then you can have so you can have custom formatting. So I'm going to click on here. Let's say, for instance, I want to highlight cell values. Let me click on more rules, and then you can see something like use a formula to determine which cells to format. So this kind of thing allows you to define your own formulas to for formatting in Excel, as against ones that have already been predefined for you. So let's say, for instance, I want to use a formula. So let's say if this is equal to, if this column is equal to this, for instance, I want you to format this. So anywhere you see, so I want you to be bold. I want you to fill with the color blue. So something like this. This is just a test, right? So now, if I put, let's say, I change this to 6, change this to 5. Now you can see that based on what I selected, if I selected that if this cell is equal to this cell, it should fill this entire column with blue. But the moment I change this back to 20, of course, I can do it in such a way that, so you can see, I can do it in such a way that it's going to be the entire column. So I can do it like cell by cell. Let me go back and reformat. Let me see, manage rules. Let's reformat. So let's reformat this. Let's edit this rule. So I'm going to make it in such a way that if, so let's say, if anything here is equal to anything here, yes, so line. So let's put, now you would see not sure. Let me see. That's not any rules. Oh, no. Any rules? This entire worksheet. E2. Oh. Apply to upcoming. Sorry. 20. Yeah. This should be why that is working. But I want to believe we get the idea. So let me see. What's this? So it's I think it's picking from the first cell. So now when you have this equal to this, applying the formatting. So let's delete why this is not clear formatting. Yeah, but I want to believe we get this idea. So you can sit down and tweak your own spreadsheet in whatever way you want to tweak it, and define your own rules. Basically, anything you can think of, you can allow it. Like for me, sometimes I use these custom rules to highlight duplicates. I know Excel allows you, but when you work in other environments, sometimes you can't. There's no direct way to highlight duplicates, so you might need to use a formula for doing that. So that's basically that with conditional formatting. Any questions on that before we go to let's do before we go to data analysis tools? Questions? Anything that's not clear? Really hope we'll be able to cover everything here today. Are we clear?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we're going to start with goal seek. Let's start with what if analysis in Excel. So what is what if analysis? In Microsoft Excel, one of the very interesting things that it allows you to do is to it allows you, what's the word? The word is to help you think of scenarios. So what if this and this and this? How, what are the possible options for me? Yeah, so that's the idea. Technically, it's called what if analysis, right? So let's say, for instance, I'm a baker. I bake cookies, and I need to know. So I know, okay, this is how much it costs me to bake one cookie. This is how much I want to sell a cookie, and I'm trying to see, okay, so at what point do I break even, for instance? That's one of the things. Instead of you using trial and error, Excel has a function or has a feature that allows you to do that kind of analysis or scenario, and it's called the goal seek tool. And so, yeah, the table we have here is just basically an idea of how easy it is to use this kind of thing. So let's say, like I said, I'm baking cookies. It costs me, let's say $5. But let's just say for illustration, it costs me $2.50 to make a cookie, and then I want to sell it at $5, and I've already made an investment of $10,000, for instance, or let's just say $1,000. I made an investment of $1,000 in my what is it called? In my business. So how many cookies would I need to bake to break even, to be able to get a net profit of 0? If you look at this at the moment, net profit here is minus 1,000, because if you look, there's a formula here that does B6, because as it is, we've not made any sales. So the only cost we've incurred so far is the fixed cost. So maybe equipment, building, all those things, it costs 1,000. So if you see the formula here, you see B6 multiplied by B5, that's B6, which is the unit price, multiplied by B5, which is the number of cookies sold. Then B7 multiplied by B5, which is, that would be the cost, total cost, then minus 1,000. So this here will give us our net profit. But at the moment, because we've not made any sales, our net profit is at minus $1,000. So let's say I want to bake, I baked 20 cookies today. That means I'm at $950 loss. So now, instead of me doing trial and error, so let's say, okay, by the time I bake 500 cookies, my loss, I'll still be at a loss. But let's say by the time I bake 1,000 cookies, so now that by the time I've baked 1,000 cookies, I see that I've made a profit of $1,500. So that means my what is it called will be somewhere around the range of 700 or something. Okay, it's even, yeah. So my break-even point will be, let's see, 600. Still need, okay, so 400. So yeah, this is my break-even point. But now you see how long it has taken me to guess this. Now I can use the solver tool. I can use the goal seek tool to actually just get this once and for all without doing any other thing. So now I'm going to go back, and then I'll go to my data. How do I use goal seek? I'll go to my data tab, and then you see what if analysis under the forecast. So this was what I was looking for the other time, forecasting. Under what if analysis, there's a goal seek command. Find the right input for the value you want. So the moment I click on goal seek, it brings this dialog box. Now, set cell to value something, something. Now, by changing cell, so, you need to pay attention here so that you can know what exactly you are trying to do. Now, my variable here, the variable that will change is the number of cookies I want to sell. You remember that was the variable I was changing to try to, guess, so how many cookies do I need to sell to break even? That means to get a value of 0. So basically, break even point means that I want my profit to be 0. So this is my profit. So that will be my set cell B9 to value 0 by changing cell B5. So basically, I want my profit to be 0, but I need you to manipulate B5 for me. And the moment I click OK, you can see immediately the same value that we got, 400. So Excel does it for me without any other thing to do. Now, there are two things I can do. I can either accept it by pressing OK or pressing cancel. So let's say, for instance, I'm not interested in breaking even. I want to actually make a profit of $100. The same way, I can come to what if analysis, goal seek. So I want you to set this my profit. I want you to set it to I want to make a profit of 500 naira today. How many cookies do I need to sell? Now Excel does what it can do, and then you can see it gives me 600 cookies. So I need to sell cookies, 600 cookies, to be able to make $500 as my profit. You see how easy it is to use the goal seek calculation. Any questions so far? Is there something that's not clear that maybe I need to come over? I'm going to assume that we are clear. So now the next question is, how many cookies do I need to sell to become a millionaire, a cookie millionaire? The same idea, goal seek. Now, I want you to set this value here. I want to become a millionaire, so I need to sell, I need to make 1 million naira in profits. And I want you to change this cell, the number of cookies I'm going to sell. So I need to sell 404,000 cookies to make $1 million in profits. You see how easy this is? And you can use it for any type of business. Let's say you sell whatever it is you are selling. You already know, okay, this is the cost, unit cost for to make this thing. Let's say you are a perfumer. It costs me 500 naira to make one perfume, and then I want to sell it at 700 naira. How many of it do I need to sell to make this amount of money? Of course, I know a question that will come to you is that, what if I want to look at a different range of prices, right? That's going to be what we are going to be talking about next in the solver. Solver is sort of like an advanced goal-seek that allows you now manipulate more than one variable. So for this particular tool, goal-seek, you can only manipulate one of the variables, which is the, for this one now, we're only manipulating the number of cookies sold. And then, so the last question here is, how many cookies do I need to sell to become a cookie multi-millionaire? The same idea. What if go seek? So I want to set this value to, let's say, 2.5 million. 0.5 million. I want to change this cell. And then I click OK. And then you can see this is how many cookies I need to sell. 1 million cookies to make $2.5 million of these sales. Of course, I don't know how possible that is in real life, but basically it's just an illustration. So now let's say we want to make okay, let's quickly use this. I want to illustrate solver, but I'm going to use this exact same sample, question 1, and then I'll show you how solver does this differently from goal-seek. So now I want to first of all explain how solver works, so that when we get to a more advanced example, you'll be able to get it better. So any question on goal-seek? Is it clear how it works?
Yes.
Yes. All right. So with solver, by default, solver is not activated in Microsoft Excel. So it's also on the data tab, but now it's under the analyze group. So you see I have a solver tab here. And then when I click on it, you see what if analysis tool that finds the optimal value of your target cell by changing values in cells used to calculate the target cells. So this one changes more than one value. But before we get here, I need to show you how to activate solver, because if you have normal Excel, solver is usually not activated. So now I'm going to come to options. This is where you activate your solver. Adding. So if you come to your add-ins, you see active add-ins, you see inactive add-ins. By default, solver is not activated. So you need to come to this manage, and then go to, you see, by default, this will not be checked. So if you want to activate solver, you just need to check this, and then click on OK. The same thing with analysis toolpacks, which we're also going to look at shortly if time permits us. Analysis toolpack is also not activated by default, so you need to click on it and then click OK. So when you click OK, then it shows here a solver. Now I'm going to click on solver, and then it's going to bring up the dialog box for solver. Now you see that this looks a little more complex, but it's still the same idea, right? You have an objective. So I want to know how many cookies do Abby, how many the objectives here. I want to know how many cookies I need to sell to make a particular profit. So my objective here is my profit, right? Sorry. My objective here is my profits. Now, I need to set it to the value of 0, which is where we are starting from. By changing value, it has even already selected B2. Now, one thing with solver is that it allows you now select more than one variable. So I can say I also want to change price. I also want to change price. I don't want to look at just number of cookies alone. I want to see, okay, can I adjust the price? Cost is not adjustable, right? But price, I can adjust my price. But then I want to put a constraint on my price. So let's say I don't want my price to go above. Now you will see cell reference B3, which is the sell for price. I want it to be less than or equal to. So I don't want to sell. I cannot afford to sell my cookie below $8 because people will not buy. So I want it to be 8. Now I've added cell reference. I've added that constraint, so you can see cell B3 must be less than or equal to 8. So now I'm adjusting 2 variables for my solver. That's an advantage that solver has over GoSeek. With GoSeek, you can only manipulate 1 variable at a time. But with solver, you can look at 4, 5, 6 different things that you want to change to give you a set objective. But yeah, we know our objective is the price. So now, when it comes to selecting a solving method, you don't need to bother yourself so much about this, right? It gives you an idea. Select the GRG nonlinear engine for solver problems that are smooth nonlinear. Select the LP simplex engine for linear solver problems. Select evolutionary engine for solver problems that are non-smooth. This is a very simple problem, so I can just leave it at the default. So I'm going to click on solve. It's going to take some time, of course, and then you can see it gives me a result, solver results. So you can see 4,005. So I'm going to return to this. So now you can see it gave 4,000. So I need to sell 4,000 to be able to make a net profit of 0. So let's say I want to make a profit of 1 million. 600,000, 1 million. And then I want to change either B3 or B6. Objective cell contents must be a formula. Error in model, sorry. Let's go back. Sorry. Solver. By changing variables. So objective is, I want this place. This is where I want to be my objective. Set it to value of 1 million. I hope. Yes, so we can see it's still the same thing it gives us. So it gives us, we need to sell 404,000 cookie units to be able to make the best of our profit. So I'm going to click on OK to accept that result. Any questions before we come here to a more advanced solver? So now here we have different cake types. We have oven capacity. Now we are seeing that we are introducing a couple of more constraints to our scenario. So in the same vein, I'm going to come to solver. So here I'm going to click on solver. Of course, I've already done this before. So now here I want to solve this. I want to maximize my profit. So the question here is, how do I maximize my profits? I want to maximize my profits, right? That's, I want it to be maximum by changing this cell. So now I have about 4 or 5 different cookie types, right? Each of them have different profit margins, and there's a demand. Okay, I cannot sell more than 10,000 of chocolate chips. I cannot sell more than 4,000 of Fortune, and so on and so forth. Now, the constraints, I've already added them, and is that total baked here, which is the what is it called? The total baked must not exceed 15,000, because I cannot do more than 15,000 cookies in one day, right? So I've set a constraint that B10 must be equal to B12. Then this column here, that means the quantity to bake must be less than or equal to the total demand. And then, of course, this quantity to bake can only be an integer. So I cannot have 1.5 Fortune cookies, for instance. So imputing all these constraints, whether using simplex or using GRG, of course, it might take longer. And then I click on OK. I hope it doesn't take too long. But that's why a lot of the time it's always preferable to use the simplex, because it takes a shorter time, a much shorter time to run your scenario. Yeah, so I hope we get the idea. Now you can see, after running this simulation, it tells me that I need to sell 10,000 chocolate chips, 4,000 oatmeals, and 1,000 macadamia to be able to make the best profits. Let's say I'm interested in a certain value of profits. I want to make $50,000 in profits. 50,000. Let's say I'm not interested in maximizing. I want to make 50,000 in profits. What do I need to sell to make $15,000 in profits? Let's hope that will run. It takes time, depending on the complexity of your scenario. Any questions? Is this clear? Do we get the idea? Now, we have a problem. It says solver could not find a point for which all constraints are satisfied. Why do you think that is? It's found that I need to sell up to 20,000 cookies for me to be able to make that kind of profits, right? I can do stuff without integer constraints. You can see the kind of scenarios it's running. It's basically just trying out different things. That's basically what it does, right? You can see when it gets something that closely matches what I've set out, then it's going to stop. So it's basically just doing trial and error. But because it's a computer, it's able to run this so fast that you don't even that you can ever even imagine to. So yeah, we're going to just wait and see how long this is going to run for. But it doesn't seem to find a suitable point that is making profit go above what we had before. This looks like it's going to keep running indefinitely. Yeah, so it still could not find a feasible solution. So there's a problem with our scenario. So we need to find let's let's do minimize here, minimize profits. I'm interested in, let me use another algorithm. Now, the minimum profit I can make from this 15,000 is $8,000. Is this clear? Is there something that we need that's not clear here that I need to maybe clarify? But do you get the drill? Do you have do you understand how this works? So yeah, you see, save scenario. I have the opportunity to also save this scenario. Any questions? Let me use the simplex to do the maximum. Let's see if it's going to give us the same thing. So we're getting the same thing we got with the GRG algorithm. Questions?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to understand it. It's a bit complex for me.
Yeah. So what exactly do you need more clarity on? It's for a start, you always confuse. There's always that tendency that you want to confuse. Okay, so which one am I going to set as the objective? Which one is going to be my variable? That is normal, but with more practice, and the thing is, it's often better if you have a very good use case. Let's say you have a business, for instance, and we are trying to find the optimum point for making profit. This is what solver does. It's basically for businesses. So let's say you are trying to maximize profit, or you are just starting up, and then you want to see, okay, so how much do we need to be spending in a month, or how much do we need to be spending in a week to be able to minimize our costs? Those are the kind of things you can do with solver. You want to minimize costs. You're trying to say, okay, so how much must we spend on this to ensure that our costs is minimal? Once you understand the objective, so the basic important thing here is understand your objective. So for this particular scenario, our profits is the most important thing to us. We want to maximize it. You can also want to minimize. So let's say, for instance, you are trying to minimize production costs. You can run a scenario where you can minimize that. Let's say you are looking for an exact value. You can then use the value. Then the variable cells will be the things you want to change, right? What are the things that I want to change? For this particular scenario, these are the things we want to change, right? These are the things we want to change. These are the things we want to change. So we want to know how much of each of these do we need to sell. You get? So you can always like look up tutorials. Constraints are okay. I know that with capacity, my capacity is 15,000. So I must have the total baked here cannot be more than my capacity, cannot be more than 15,000. So I will add that as a constraint. I also know that I can't bake half cookies. So all these cookie numbers must be integers. Then the last reference is that I cannot bake beyond demand. So whatever is here must be less than or equal to the demand. So if, for instance, I did not have a constraint on this demand, I can decide to bake all 15,000 chocolate chips. That will make my profits the best, because chocolate chips are the most profitable. But because there's a demand, and the demand is that You cannot have more than 10,000 in a day. People will not buy it. And I don't want the 5,000 to go to waste. So I want to put in variety. So that's why you have that constraint that, okay, so chocolate chips cannot be more than 10,000. Fortune cannot be more than 4,000 and so on. So that's why you have these three scenarios. And once you put all your constraints, you put the solving method, you give solver to do, it's going to do all the permutations for you. And then it returns 50,000. This is not one. So I'm trying to maximize. I think that's the problem here. So maximizing profits, and then you see solver found a solution. Constraints and optimality conditions, all constraints and optimality conditions are satisfied. Further questions? We're already far beyond time, so I think this is where we're going to put a pause on it today. But Isabel, if you think you still need more clarity, please feel free to reach out to me. I would be more than happy to have maybe an extra session with you.
Okay.
This was supposed to be our last session. Then next week we are going to be looking at a real live project with Excel. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly next week we'll look at data tables, and then if possible we'll look at this before moving, or maybe we'll add another week, look at this last part, so data tables, protection, comments, sharing, and then in the last week we would now go to the projects, which is going to help us put everything into place and then see how Excel can be used in the real world scenario. Thank you very much for those of you that have joined today. It's been such a pleasure. I'll upload the video shortly, and then you can always look at it over and over again. So I'll see you guys next week. Thank you.
Thank